WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, tasting often rare and exotic whiskeys. This whiskey is somewhere in between. Balvenie, 15-year-old Madeira Cask. So, Whiskybase number 203856. The first time I saw this whiskey personally was at Heathrow Airport. It's a travel retail over here at the moment, still in Germany, or still in Europe. And I flew from Germany to Heathrow, from Heathrow to Dallas, Texas. And on the way back, I flew from Dallas, Texas directly to Frankfurt due to an airline strike where the flight between Heathrow and my airport in Dusseldorf was canceled. So I did not get to buy the bottle on the way back from Heathrow. All right, now this sample was given to me by Silvio. Thank you very much. He was at the whiskey fair called Vogtland Spirits in Greiz on the border, basically in eastern Germany between the Czech Republic and Germany. So very far away from where I actually live. But it was an interesting whiskey fair, and it was great meeting you there, Silvio. Now, this whiskey is unique in that it actually was matured for 15 years in ex-bourbon casks. We do not know if they're first, second, third, or fourth fill. And then it received a finish in a Madeira, or a Madeira casks. The going price over here in Germany at the moment is 145 euros. Now, at the airport, I can buy it for 115 euros. So there's a little bit of difference there. I do have online shops in the UK trying to take £250 for the same whiskey. Some things will just never actually make sense to me, the pricing of some whiskeys in this world. But hey, that's that. Now, the question that I have, and I don't think anyone's going to honestly answer me, were these seasoned Madeira casks? I personally know that we have seasoned sherry casks. Never saw a real sherry that went into a bottle. We have seasoned port casks. Never saw a port that actually went in a real bottle. And I think, that there are so many Madeira casks out there now, and I don't know anyone drinking Madeira wine, that I think we're having now the Madeira casks being seasoned, being created just for the whiskey industry, which isn't bad, but it's different from what some people expect. Now, the whole story of Madeira is it's an island. They had the nice little fortified wine there. They would actually put on the boat and take it back up to the UK through this warm summer climate. And actually in the hull of the ship, the casks were almost baked, and that made a big difference. So what do we do today? We put the Madeira cask in these metal sheds, basically. We put them up on the top of the sheds with the most heat, so that actually in the summer that this wine is almost cooked, and it gives that special moment of that flavor. Now, the question is, what can I compare this to? Do I have something else from Balvenie similar? No. I don't have the port 21-year-old. I don't have anything else really here at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull out a glass that a bottle I've had before. And this is a Madeira finish. Costs half the price. So we're looking somewhere around 70 euros for a Dramore single malt Scotch whiskey. It's Glenmorangie, and it's 10 years old, and it was finished in a first fill Madeira cask. And that's 54%. So we have 43 versus 54. Yes, it's not fair. And we have 70 euros versus 140 euros. Also not fair. We have 10 years versus 15 years. And we have Glenmorangie versus Balvenie. My personal opinion is the following, and I might be totally wrong. Balvenie used to be better. So 6 years ago when I started my journey into whiskey, yes, it's only been 6 years, I thoroughly loved the Glenmorangie 12, and I thoroughly loved the Balvenie 12 double cask. Those were, for me, two of the best whiskeys, sherry monsters at a great price back then. In the last 2 years that I've had the 12-year-old double oak from double wood from Balvenie, they have been somewhat bitter. A little bit of that wood tannin bitters coming in on there. And I have a little bit of a conspiracy theory about that. I have the feeling that Balvenie, that they might have been using, well, 15 years ago, so, well, 2007, some of their casks an extra time. So it does not anywhere say first fill bourbon. It says ex-bourbon cask. So you take a cask from America, it's been used for 4 to 12 years usually, comes over to Scotland. They use it first fill, second fill, and then the question is, do we do a third fill? So that's the fourth time something's been in there. And I do know distilleries that have used them for the fourth fill as well. And not just as a holding container, but actually as a maturation container. What do I mean? If you have a whiskey that is actually, let's say, 15 years old, and you want to make that 15-year-old a 21-year-old, but you don't want to add too much of that oak tannins, you take an old, tired cask, and you put that whiskey in there, just let it sit. Hopefully an inactive cask. Now, this was not set into an inactive cask. It was probably put into a third fill ex-bourbon cask, and it gave it a little bit too much of those tannins, in my opinion. But we'll get to that in a second. It's an interesting color profile. A little bit of that, I don't know, plum type of rosé moment going on in there. So, all right, good. Let's nose it. Now, the Madeira really comes through. It shines through. It's a fruity, honey, nice floral moment. And it's a 15-year-old. It spent 15 years in ex-bourbon cask and received a couple months of a finish. I'm sure these Madeira casks, probably seasoned, were somewhat wet, and so they actually did their job fairly quickly. And when I finish something, it's always one of those questions of how long should the finish be? Is it weeks, months, years? And how much of do they harmonize with each other? I feel that this whiskey is exactly where it should be. There's not too much of that Madeira, there's not too little. It's more than evident, and it's actually well balanced. The question that I actually have is, are they just trying to cover up those bitter notes of those used casks or not? And I'm fairly certain that, in my opinion, that seems to be the case for me. Did you notice the tentative language there? All right, don't want William Granson's son coming after me and suing me. Nice nose. This is going to be a C+ nose. Cheers. Now, as far as I'm aware, there is no mention whatsoever here of non-chilled filtering. 43% would surprise me. There is no mention anywhere here of natural color, which is a little bit of a shame. Now, it might be on there. I'm looking at the bottle now, and I don't see anything on here. We do have David Charles Stewart, which I did not know that a C is for Charles. The Balvenie Malt Master. We have the first. We have the honey and the vanilla. We have the second one. I'm trying to read it here. We get a little bit more of that nice, even a little bit of plum moment and so on here. Yeah. And there's, for me, WhiskyJason, I get tannins. I get too much of those tannins. Now, I don't know if you've ever taken black tea and you've actually made a cup of black tea, and you leave that black tea bag in there for 40 plus minutes. And there forms a little bit of an oil on top of the tea, and there's a little bit more of those tannins in there that don't really belong there, in my opinion. Put a tea bag in there, leave it for 5 minutes, take it out, boom, a little bit of milk, a little bit of sugar. I'm a happy boy, especially the breakfast, my breakfast tea from England. But if I were to leave that in there for 40 plus, 45 an hour, and exactly that feeling, that astringency, that tannins is what I'm getting here. All right, so a second taste. Some people wrote down by Whiskybase, for example, that it's thin. Some people wrote down that the 43%. is just a little bit flat. And other people have written down that they just love the oily mouthfeel and the wonderful Madeira fragrance and the taste. And someone else wrote down, can barely notice the Madeira. And so you have people giving it a 94 and you have people giving it a 73, which means that this whiskey is something that is not a unanimous opinion of this, especially at that price. Love the nose. Mm-hmm. So that finish happens. It's good. Then a little bit of the tannins take over, and then you swallow, and then the finish, actually, that Madeira is there. But then it dissipates quickly, and I'm left with actually more of a old oak wooden tannin moment towards the end. I'm going to give this whiskey somewhere between a 3+ and a 3. Let's just give it, I'm sorry, a C and a C+. Let's give it a C for today. It's something that I'm not going to turn down. It's not something I'm going to seek out again. It's not something that I would be disappointed if I had bought it. 140 euros of my hard-earned dollars. It's a D for value for money. If you're at the airport and you don't know what to buy and you have too much money and you need a souvenir for your father-in-law and he loves Balvenie, go for this. But otherwise, I can maybe steer you to an independent bottle of Dramore, for example, from the Glenmorangie distillery, 10 years of age, 54%, and it is finished in first fill Madeira cask. This was in a single cask, by the way. This is good. First of all, the 54%, yummy, exactly right. Second of all, that Madeira finish comes, stays, goes, and it just kind of, it's here. You'd remember that my Balvenie started there, went up to there, went down to here, went almost up to there, and went left again. This has a beautiful finish. I get 2 bottles of this for 1 bottle of this. Do I really need to think about it? No. This is more of a whiskey that I can definitely recommend, but it is a single cask, so there's a few bottles left here in Germany, and you won't find them again. So therefore, my question of the day is twofold. First of all, what is your favorite Balvenie? For example, maybe it's going to be the Double Wood 17-year-old, now discontinued for the moment because they don't have enough stocks for it. Is it maybe a Balvenie, now I'm pulling out the big boys, is it a Ton 1509, this was batch 6? Or is it just the simple single cask, 12-year-old, 15-year-old? Balvenie has some very, very good products out there. Which ones do you prefer? Write that down. And the second question is, hey, what Madeira finished or matured product can you recommend? All right, so I'm going to just throw out there Bushmills 21. Bushmills 21 has a great Madeira cask finish involved in it. So that's something that I can recommend, but it's also not cheap. So maybe something that's a little bit less expensive than 100 euros, $100, £100 would be appreciated in this moment. So give us some tips down below. That'd be great. All right. Thank you very much for watching, liking, subscribing, telling others, and sharing. Thank you very much. Whiskey Jason here. See you. Bye-bye.